Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks. On Thursday, the 14th day of December, year of our Lord 2017, welcome to the John Moore Show. We have open lines this first half hour. Actually be talking about the prep tip of the day. Tom Berryhill will join us at the bottom of the hour. We'll be talking for about 24 minutes about the energy cleaner. Prepper tip of the day. I want to encourage all of you to please consider primitive weapons, including recurve crossbows and recurve bows, as opposed to compound crossbows and compound bows, for the following reason. Compound bows and compound crossbows, as neat and as fun and as powerful and as accurate as they are, you're not going to repair these things in the field. You're not going to repair them at all unless you've got specialized training and specialized tools. That's just not going to happen. So for most people, most of the time, including myself, by the way, I recommend recurve crossbows and recurve bows. Now, if you want to get the specialized training, get the specialized tools to maintain compound crossbows and compound bows, hey, by all means, go for it. But in a long-term, grid-down survival situation, simple has a lot going for it. Okay, going on from there, expanding on it, the company that makes the highest quality recurve crossbows that I'm aware of, and the company that I chose to make my purchase, is Excalibur. It's and their website is excaliburcrossbow.com. excaliburcrossbow.com. I haven't been to their website for about a better part of a year, I guess. I just went there this morning, doing some quick research to see what was going on, and they've dramatically increased their line of crossbows. The one that really got my attention is called the micro suppressor. The micro suppressor. This crossbow, you got your choice of the standard one. It has a velocity of 355 feet per second. Or if you get the sound deadening system, which makes a quiet crossbow even quieter, that knocks off a few feet per second, takes it down to 343 feet per second. Now, if you're used to shooting firearms and velocities of at least the speed of sound, if not faster, this may not sound like much, but on one hand. On the other, you need to understand the following. Energy is a mathematical calculation. Mass times velocity equals energy. So yes, on one hand, you don't have a whole lot of velocity, but man, do you have a lot of weight. You're shooting an arrow that weighs 350 grams. Now, that's on the low end. A 45 caliber ACP standard projectile is 240 grams. So you're looking at the weight of a 45 caliber slug plus the weight of a 9mm slug to get up to 350 grams. You're talking some serious energy, something that's very quiet, we might even say extremely quiet, very accurate, powerful enough to kill a grizzly bear. I have your attention. You can kill a grizzly bear with one of these crossbows. The legal aspects are a lot less burdensome in most jurisdictions, not all. There's a caveat here, not all jurisdictions. But in most places, a crossbow is a lot less burdensome to own in terms of legality. You need to do your own homework, of course. Now, these things don't come cheap. Suggested retail on this thing is $1,300. Now, that's a chunk of change for most people most of the time. Now, if you're a fan of The Walking Dead, as I am, and I just got caught up with the most recent episode night before last. One of the characters there uses a crossbow. It's not a very powerful crossbow because he cocks this thing by hand. You're not going to do that with a micro suppressor. it is possible for a human being to be that strong, but most people couldn't cock this thing. The the draw weight is 280 pounds, so you have to be able to pull back 280 pounds to be able to cock this thing, unless you use the one of the cocking mechanisms that comes with it. Typically, it's a rope with a couple of handles on it, which makes cocking it pretty easy for most people most of the time. Now, this is not for everybody. In the absence of a cranker cocking mechanism, I know my wife would not be able to cock this thing. But we've practiced with my crossbow, which is very powerful Excalibur, and she can cock it using the cocking mechanism, the crank cocker, but she doesn't have the strength to use the rope cocker. That's just the way that is. Now, there's other crossbows that don't require that much draw weight. Obviously, you're giving up power and feet per second if you go to a lower powered crossbow. But even the lower powered crossbows are still very accurate and very deadly. So it's a matter of personal situation, what you need to meet your needs in terms of power, accuracy, the weight, the size, and of course the price. But going through their product line here, they've got, let's see, there's 4, 8, 12, 16, looks like 17 different choices that you can have here at the Excalibur website. They're made in Canada, by the way. And they have dealers that says, I don't sell these things. It says, find the dealer. So when you click on there, you put your zip code in, and let's see if I can find one here. See if I can find one. I doubt there's one within 60 miles of my zip code. Okay, I'll try Metro St. Louis. 122. Okay, and what goes there? Okay, and we've got in Metro St. Louis two dealers selling the Excalibur crossbows. Plus, we got Bass Pro, Dick's Sporting Goods, Cabela's, Shields. I'm not familiar with Shields. Sale. There's I assume those are national chains. Durham's, Dunham's, Bass Pro, Dick's. Some of the major ones. They carry the Excalibur line of crossbows. So these are pretty easy to get your hands on. Hopefully, you could find at one of these national outlets get a little bit better price from one of these national outlets, or catch something on sale. That's a possibility also. I recall in the St. Louis Art Museum, they have a room set aside for medieval weaponry, which includes a crossbow from the Middle Ages. And it's an impressive piece of equipment. It looks like somebody took the spring from the flat spring, leaf spring from a automobile, and attached a steel cable to it and made a crossbow. That's what it looks like. Of course, I didn't have automobile leaf springs back then, but that's the general look of this thing. A steel bow, a steel cable, and a wood stock. I believe it was a wood stock. It looked like it would, whatever projectile it put in, it looked like it would be a pretty dangerous and deadly instrument, to say the least. If you have a good supply of arrows can be used over depending on what you're shooting them at. You can make arrows, or more properly called bolts. When you're shooting what a crossbow shoots as a bolt, you can make your own, if need be. So running out of ammunition would not present the same problems that it does with firearms, obviously. My Excalibur is very accurate, and I emphasize very accurate. It is very powerful. In fact, I cannot use a standard archery target to shoot my Excalibur crossbow head because the bolt will go all the way through the target. They have special targets for crossbows. They take ground up truck tires and compress them together in a cube about 1 by 1 by 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot, maybe a little bit larger than that. That's the approximate size. And even then, the Excalibur arrow bolt will go almost all the way through it, frequently all the way up to the feathers on the fletching. When they call the feathers, they call the fletching on the end of the bolt. Now that's some serious power. You look at how tough this target is. These chunks of rubber compressed together to make a target to shoot a crossbow at. Look at how tough a regular target is for shooting a normal bow and arrow. And think about it going all the way through that target. There's some serious power there. And serious accuracy. Now, you're not going to be shooting like I do, my bolt action precision rifle. You're not going to be shooting dimes at 100 yards. No, that's not going to happen. It's not expected to happen. But you can shoot a pie plate at 100 yards. A 12-inch pie plate. Oh, yeah. You can shoot a 12-inch pie plate all day long at 100 yards with a good quality recurved crossbow. And they have optics, by the way. They have telescopic sights on them, similar but different. Similar to what you'd put on a rifle. The technology, continues to improve. The crossbow's been around for 500-600 years or longer, maybe longer. I know the Roman army had a type of crossbow. It was kind of like light artillery. It was something mounted on a pedestal or a tripod to shoot really big arrows. And yes, so they've been around centuries. Crossbows have been around centuries. The technology and the engineering and design continues to move forward as new materials are brought about, such as carbon fiber. Engineers learn how to make things quieter, more powerful, more reliable. All these things contribute to the improvements that have been going into crossbows these past, I'm going to say 20, 30 years or so. And I'm sure they'll continue to move forward. So I want to encourage, if you don't have a recurved crossbow or a recurved bow, I had a very nice recurved bow when I was in college, and I would get out occasionally and practice with. It's fun. My grandchildren, the twins, a boy and a girl, they were here. I guess they were about 10 years old when they were here, and they just had great fun shooting a bow and arrow. And they were competitive and competing, and the girls can compete successfully against the boys. So that's a good thing where they have an equal footing in that kind of competition. And it's a fun thing for boys and girls to teach them a new skill and teach them some responsibility, because these are, even something that a child is using is still a dangerous instrument that needs to be handled with proper caution and care. So it's good to teach youngsters responsibility in that manner, using a bow and arrow for practice and training. And of course, you can hunt with them. We have a bow season here in Missouri, and I'm sure most of the 50 states have a bow season. Now, some states make you use the crossbow during the gun season. They're put in the same category as a firearm, and that's going to vary from state to state, whether your crossbow is categorized as a firearm for hunting purposes, or they allow you to use it during the bow season. And there's exceptions for people who have disabilities that allow them to use a crossbow during bow season. I believe that's the way it is in Missouri. I haven't looked into it recently. But if your state conservation commission requires your crossbow to be used during firearm season, that tells you something there, doesn't it? How these government agencies regard the crossbow in terms of power and accuracy, making them in the same category as a firearm for hunting purposes. It's a fun hobby. Doesn't cost a whole lot as hobbies go. Dropping $1,000 or $1,200, $1,300 on a bow is a chunk of change for most people, but it's a one-time expense. Unlike a boat, which is referred to as a hole in the water you throw your money in, it's a one-time expense, with maintenance expense being minimal, very minimal. Replacing arrows might be your biggest expense, depending on how good you are at recovering the arrows or damaging them. So I think there's a lot going for the recurve crossbows. And be diligent if you are going to be making a purchase. Make sure that whoever is going to be shooting it has the upper body strength to cock this thing. If not, make sure that there's a hand crank cocker available for the model that you choose. You can also go fishing with them, depending on the law where you are. There's fishing attachments for crossbows. And that can be fun also, and a great way to supplement your diet. If you are hungry and you need a fish to eat, well, you go out and shoot it with your crossbow, with the fishing attachment. That could be pretty fun. Yeah, absolutely, that could be a lot of fun. We got the first break coming up here momentarily, and we got open lines here at 800-313-9443. If you've got a question or comment about crossbows, recurve bows, give us a call. We got a class coming up this year, not coming here, 2018, on bow making. And we've got a couple of possible instructors lined up to teach people how to make their own bows. These will be long bows, I believe, not recurve or crossbows, either one, although I don't know what these instructors are going to want to get into, quite frankly. But there's been a lot of interest in that, and it'll be a fun class. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 14th of December. During a break, I was looking at a couple of these national sporting goods chains. They do sell the Excalibur bows for slightly less than full retail. Some of them offer free shipping, by the way. So there's a lot to choose from. Entry level looks like about $500 for the Matrix GRZ. That's Golf Romeo Zebra 2 crossbow package, and it goes up from there. So there's a lot to choose from, and this is kind of this reminds me here of one of the accessories. You got the Excalibur arrow puller. So this when these arrows are inside. When you shoot them inside these specialized targets, they're in there so tightly that you need a special little handle thing that screws into the end of the arrow that allows you to pull the arrow back out of the target. How about that? It's an amazing piece of equipment. These recurve crossbows. They're fun. They're quiet. My wife, Dr. Moore, really likes quiet, and I understand that. Quiet is good. They're powerful. They're accurate. Very reliable. And going back to the original premise, unlike these compound crossbows and compound bows, you can do field maintenance on them. You can change the string right there with a field changing kit, field string changing kit. I'll say that fast 5 times. And other maintenance you can do at home without specialized training, without specialized tools, which is a good thing. It's a real good thing to be able to do routine maintenance yourself without specialized training, without specialized tools. So there's a lot going for them. You got the rope cocking aid here that I think. Let's see. That may or may not come with the package. I'm not sure. The package is going to have different things in it, I don't see a hand crank cocking mechanism for it. Some of these are going to have the hand crank cocking option, and some won't. So it's going to vary from crossbow to crossbow, whether you can get the hand cranker to go with it. For a person of small stature, it could be a very necessary tool to have the hand crank cocking mechanism, as opposed to the rope cocking aid. So there's a lot to learn. There are facilities where you can shoot different crossbows before you make your purchase. That would be a wise thing, I think, to be able to try out a couple of different models before you drop $500 or $1,000 on something and then find out it's not what you need. Being able to shoot different models beforehand would be a real smart thing. So go for it. Check it out. It may be just what you need for predator control, for hunting, even for self-defense. It wouldn't be my first choice, but hey, a crossbow would be better than not having anything at all. Why not? It's just a fun way to spend an afternoon with friends and family out there on the range, shooting a crossbow, having competition, and just enjoying a fun afternoon with friends and family. It might become a whole new hobby for you. That's a possibility. It might be a whole new hobby. One that would be fun and relatively inexpensive once you make that initial purchase. Learning new skills is always fun. At least for me it is. I hope it is for you also. And doing new things and different things is fun. And helping other people to learn new skills is fun also. So it all sounds like a win-win situation to me, doesn't it to you? I hope so. Yes, Excalibur recurve crossbows. Great products, made up in Canada, not in China. Good company. They stand behind their products. I think you'll be very pleased with anything Excalibur sells. And check out the fishing equipment that goes along with the crossbow. So you can go fishing with your crossbow. and shoot those fish. And when they're swimming around, just shoot the one you want to eat and pull it out of the water and start cooking it. That'd be pretty fun, wouldn't it? We've got some really big fish in my ponds here that need to be cooked one day. Here's our bottom of the hour break. We'll be back with Tom Berryhill. Stay tuned.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
All right, we are back. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 14th day of December. Every Thursday, we take 24 minutes to talk about a marvelous healing device called the Energy Cleaner. We've been doing this is year number 8, and we've had some phenomenal success stories. We begin these conversations with my friend Tom Berryhill, the manufacturer of the Energy Cleaner, who is hanging in there, giving us our disclaimer. Good morning, Tom.
Hi, John. Good morning. Still recovering from that flu, but I'm hanging in there, like you said. We are not doctors or medical professionals. We don't diagnose, treat, or cure any illness or disease. The information discussed today is for your education and entertainment only. If you have a medical condition requiring treatment, you should utilize the services of a medical doctor, chiropractor, or other competent practitioner.
Outstanding. Well, Tom, I got good news. I took delivery yesterday of 27 mattress pads. They've all been, I was up, I was reconfiguring those things all afternoon until the early evening, reconfiguring them to be compatible with the Energy Cleaner. And when I get the next shipment of Energy Cleaners from you, they'll be going out literally all over the planet, including a bunch of them to the Marshall Islands, which is an American territory in the Pacific Ocean out there. So we're getting caught up. We had some glitches. All 27 of these mattress pads have been inadvertently shipped to Texas by mistake. And so I got them finally yesterday and got them all reconfigured and ready for shipment. So that should be good news, because I know there's people listening that have been waiting for several weeks because of this glitch. And as soon as I get the Energy Cleaners in from you, Tom, they'll be packed up and out the door the following business day. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about a healing device here. If you're a new listener, this is radio. We have new listeners every show. You may be sitting there thinking, okay, what are these guys talking about? We're talking about healing. We're talking about health. We focus publicly on pain mitigation. The two things we focus on are something that most American adults are dealing with, which is joint pain, back pain, arthritis pain, and not getting a great night's sleep. That covers, I would say, more than half of the adults in this country, doesn't it, Tom?
I would tend to agree, John. I've always said, and you've heard me say it many times on your show, that you don't have to look very far to find somebody in pain. Just go to the closest gas station, the closest shopping area, shopping mall, store. Just look around. There's people hobbling and hanging on to their shopping carts. I mean, you know, John, sometimes people use a shopping cart just to hold themselves up. It's that bad. I see it everywhere.
I see it all the time, and it hurts just to watch these people attempt to walk. And you're right, Tom. Any place where there's a number of people coming and going, just take a moment and watch and observe. How many people have a normal gait? How many people have a pleasant expression on their face? How many people are obviously in pain with each and every step. Well, the energy cleaner will help. It will help, most likely. Now, pain medications work in the following manner. They act as a blocking mechanism, blocking the signal from the source of the pain. It could be ankle, knee, hip, whatever it might be. Blocks that signal getting from that source of pain to your brain. That's how pain medication works. The energy cleaner works in an entirely different manner. It goes to the source of the pain and heals the source of the pain, as opposed to being a blocking mechanism. And of course, energy cleaner can cause no harm. There is a detox effect connected to the energy cleaner, which if you have too many heavy metals in your body, too many toxins, detoxing too fast can be unpleasant. And in that case, we just have people remove 6 of the 9 batteries, leaving 3 behind. That slows down the detox, and most people can tolerate that most of the time, can't they, Tom?
Well, that works pretty good, John. If somebody is experiencing too much healing, and that has been a problem in some cases. It's very rare, but it does happen. And what typically goes on is the person will tell us that they're just overwhelmed by the signal from that energy cleaner. And we always advise them to just take some of the batteries out. It operates on 9 D-cell batteries. So what that person can do is remove 6 of the batteries. It will operate with any one of the 3 rows of 3 batteries. So you put in 3 batteries, and now you're operating at a much lower power level, and you can work your way up through the total count of 9 batteries. So just take your time in doing that. Right, and that seems to take care of almost every situation.
It does. It does. Now, here's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. The energy cleaner, first of all, is not a TENS unit. No, and it's not a Rife frequency generator. It puts out a signal, what's called an electrostatic signal, which is why it only needs 1 wire. That 1 wire plugs into the energy cleaner, and it can be a wire going to the mattress pads that I offer for sale, or to a metal spoon you put in a bathtub full of comfortably hot water, or a hot tub turned down 98 degrees. And that signal goes to every cell in your body, flushing out toxins, bringing in fresh nutrition. That process is what mitigates pain. That process is what helps you sleep so well at night. I know, Tom, that when I have an energy cleaner, a mattress pad on my bed, of course, and the energy cleaner attached to it, those first 3 hours of sleep, it is the most peaceful, restful sleep that a human being can ever experience. Now, I go ahead, typically I do rest and sleep, stay in bed about 8 hours, typically 7.5 to 8 hours. But quite frankly, I could get by on a lot less and still feel pretty darn good. 6 hours would probably get me by quite well, but I go ahead and typically I'm resting, sleeping about 7.5 hours, and get up and my feet hit the ground and I'm ready to go with no aches, no pains, refreshed, and ready to hit it. And that's true of most people, isn't it, Tom?
I believe so. And John, I've had many people tell me over the years that they've noticed that they don't sleep as long with the energy cleaner, but they feel like they've gotten a full 8 hours sleep, even though it might only be 5 or 6 hours. I've had people tell me that many, many times. So it really does make the time that you are asleep very, very efficient. And it's your wife, Dr. Moore, that always says we heal when we sleep.
That's right. That is what, and I know people who are struggling with their health and attempting to eat right and do the right things, and their sleep pattern is just so cockamamie and off kilter that they will never ever have optimal health as long as their sleep pattern is not the way it should be. Now, for most normal, healthy people, most of the time, they would be waking up about 6 a.m. and going to bed about 10 p.m. And there's that cycle applies to most human beings most of the time. Obviously, there could be exceptions, and you can still be healthy, but that's a kind of a foundational platform to look at. And the energy cleaner will help you get that cycle back into the rhythm it should be. The energy cleaner is not the silver bullet that will help all health conditions all the time, but it can do no harm, can it, Tom?
No, it won't do any harm, that's for sure. John, when Lee Kroc, who was the original inventor of this energy cleaner technology, when he was attacked by the state medical board, the Ohio State Medical Board came after him they accused him of practicing medicine without a license. And during the hearings and the one trial, a professor from the state university was called in and as an expert witness, and one of the statements he made while they're in the courtroom was that they wanted to know, did he, in his opinion, think this thing could harm anybody? And he says, no. He says, I don't know if this thing will hurt anybody, or will help anybody. But he said, it certainly cannot harm anybody. He says, if this machine harmed anybody, he said, we would have to ban all flashlights because it's a relatively simple system that operates on flashlight batteries. So no harm can be done. But I'll tell you, we have seen over the years many thousands of people get relief from pain, better sleep. And, you know, John, unfortunately in our country, we can't talk about other more serious health issues that are everywhere that you turn. Everybody has these situations in their family, friends, acquaintances, and we can't always talk about those because it'll get us in trouble with the state boards as well. But people can read between the lines, as we always say, and they can figure these things out for themselves. But if you can detox your body at the cellular level, everything else will fall into place and your body can heal itself. And that is really the basis of what we're doing. Absolutely.
I spoke to Steve Whitman earlier this week. His new book is finished. I'll be getting a review copy probably in a few days, and after I read it, we'll have Steve on to talk about his book and also his journey involving the energy cleaner, which he gives the energy cleaner and John Moore credit for saving his life, which is very humbling to get that kind of credit publicly. So I'm looking forward to getting Steve's new book and reading it, and his journey, his life's journey, changed dramatically in a number of ways, all because of my radio show and the energy cleaner. So we're looking forward to that. Ladies and gentlemen, the energy cleaner is for sale. It's my home business. When you place your order, I'm the guy that boxes it up. I take it to the Cherryville post office, where there's an opening, by the way, for a postmaster at the Cherryville post office if you want to apply for that job. And they also have a all-you-can-eat catfish buffet every Friday evening for less than $10. And if you place an order for your mattress pad, I reconfigure the mattress pad that comes from the factory, and I box them up, and I take them to the Cherryville post office also, where you can get a bottomless cup of coffee for 75 cents. And if you ask for a latte, they'll wonder or if you're speaking French or what you're asking for, because they don't know what a latte is. We got a call on hold here. We got Jimmy Ginsling. Good morning, Jimmy.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Tom. Tom, you and I had talked, well, actually all of us had talked a while back on my dilemma. And some people may know, some may not. But anyway, due to the accident in the Coast Guard and all, I have been on pain meds for lumbar, neck, and knee injury that were sustained in that. So for roughly 18 years, I've been on a cocktail, and in the last 12, it's been a mix of methadone and morphine just to function. The wanting to go in and do surgery, they haven't made a 100% decision on it yet, Tom, to actually relieve the calcium and everything that is in contact with the nerves, L2 through S1 down the lower back. And so they've actually it's been about a month and a half now, tapering me off of the methadone and the morphine. John, you mentioned at the beginning of this when y'all were talking, pain meds cover, they mask it, and I'm living proof to tell everybody. You may think you're having a great day. start tapering off your pain meds or run out of them entirely. It's interesting, when I was in for a procedure Monday, they asked me what my pain level was, and Teresa says, does 14 count? And normally it's 1 to 10. But the thing is, with the energy cleaner, the only way I am getting any rest at all, period, is at night, draw a hot bath, as hot as I can stand it. I put a handful of Epsom salt in there and dissolve that all in, and hook the energy cleaner to a spoon, and I put that in there when I'm filling the water. And about 30, 40 minutes of being able to soak in that, my knee swelling will start to recede. My knees get up about the size of large grapefruits right now. And that does enough to take the tension out of my body and everything, enough that I can actually rest, Tom. Now, my question is this, and it's something we discussed again, with not being able to set for any period of time because of everything that's going on. Have we ever come up with an idea of how to do, like, mobile unit on this thing or something?
Oh, boy, John, he's putting me on the spot again.
Yep, I can hear that coming.
You know, Jimmy, I'm just going to say one thing. I work best under pressure, and Mr. John Moore has been pressuring me for a while. He's eased up a little bit lately, but I think you've just relit that fuse, and John's going to be working on me. But there are some things in the works as we speak that will probably help with this. A system that can be worn on a daily basis. You could go about your daily activities and actually wear this. So we're working on that, and there will be a couple of prototypes available soon. I've just got some special projects I have to get out of the way before I can complete those, and some various fixtures and machinery that I have to purchase to make this all feasible. So it's very, very close. It's taken me several years to put it all together. But you know, Jimmy, you understand this from your work with firearms and gunsmithing and things. You can't just throw this stuff together. You have to get all your fixturing and everything made so that you can produce these in an efficient manner. I don't like to start from scratch each time. You know, I like fixturing and things that hold the parts intact so you can do the assembly rapidly. And that's what I'm doing. That's some of the final things that you do, is build these manufacturing fixtures. So that's underway.
Oh, yeah. Nothing, ladies and gentlemen, nothing good ever happens in 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you know what else, Jimmy? It's quite likely that you have some mechanical abrasion there. You mentioned the calcium deposits, and that's like a crystalline structure that can really, at the microscopic level, put some severe pressure on these nerves, causes severe pain. Now, the energy cleaner, John always says it's not the silver bullet for everything. It is absolutely not. But we have seen many cases where morphine could not deaden the pain, but using the energy cleaner actually helped the person that was experiencing this pain. And we've had other people tell us that, I believe Tim Spencer was one of these, John, that said that he was able to reduce the amount of pain medication by using the energy 100%, but reduce the quantities consumed, which was really for him, because, all these pharmaceuticals that to take really damage it. So you want to stay as far away from them as possible.
Here's our break. So right back. Jimmy, thanks for the call. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 14th of December. Yes, I sell energy cleaners. And yes, I do have a 30-day money-back guarantee, soon to be 90 days, by the way. A 30-day money-back guarantee on the energy cleaner, so you're risking nothing when you make your purchase. You can make your purchase right there at my website at thelibertyman.com of energy cleaners and the mattress pads that go with them. Or you can call my toll-free number. Toll-free number is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Of course, when you make your purchase online, you can use PayPal, the most secure way to make any payment online. And of course, if you live in the U.S., PayPal now takes payments. You need to spread out that dollar amount over a few months, and many people need to do that. That's fine. So we got the spring seed catalogs are hitting people's mailboxes about now, Tom, and the secondary use for energy cleaner is to help your fruits and vegetables and even ornamentals, isn't it, Tom?
Well, very true, John. But before we touch on that, I'd sure like to make a couple last comments in Jimmy's situation here. You know, he's got these calcium crystals, and, John, perhaps they can do some sort of orthoscopic surgical procedure, a very small incision, get in there and get that calcium, those deposits removed. I think that would help him a lot. I know he's on the fence with that, but maybe Jimmy can give that some more consideration. And, of course, that energy cleaner will help those surgical incisions heal up quite rapidly. So he'll be back to normal pretty quick. And this may also really help him reduce the amount of pain medication and perhaps eliminate any pain medication in the near future shortly after he gets those procedures. So sometimes, you know, these mechanical problems with the calcium deposits and things like that can really cause quite a bit of pain, and the energy cleaner will not fix that on its own. So Jimmy should give that some consideration. And as to gardening, yes, the energy cleaner will greatly assist the growth of your vegetables, any types of plants that you're growing. You can use it in the garden. We simply drive in regular fence posts, the metal ones, and I use electric fence insulators to suspend a grid of chicken wire over your plant area, and you can connect the energy cleaner onto that at any convenient location along any side, any edge, in the corner, whatever works for you. Put the energy cleaner in a plastic bag or some sort of plastic tub that keeps the weather off of it. You don't want any dew in the morning or rain on it, and set that in a shaded area, and that will energize those plants day and night and really make quite a bit of difference in the growth. So right. Give it a try. It's well worth looking into.
Okay. Well, Tom, appreciate you're getting on the show with us as always, and we'll be talking privately before the day's over.
Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you. We're going to top the hour break coming up here momentarily. I don't believe Don Kubley's calling in. He's just so covered up getting the domes off to Bangladesh and India. He's opening a new factory in India, I believe. And we may have a special caller partway through the second hour. We shall see. Top of the hour break. Stay tuned. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here, our second hour on Thursday, the 14th day of December. A prepper tip of the day. I encourage all of you to consider the purchase and training and use of recurve crossbows and recurve bows. They're excellent way to have some fun, hunting, target practice, even self-defense. You know, we spent the first half hour of the first hour talking about crossbows. I really like the Excalibur brand, by the way, of recurve crossbows. That's my choice. Okay, we're gonna have open lines this second hour here. Call numbers 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443. Lots going on in the world. The election in Alabama has caused a lot of controversy, to say the least. These numerous allegations of men in positions of government and entertainment, accusations by women of improper conduct on the part of these men. And, of course, the continuing issues in the Middle East and with North Korea, those have not gone away. The continuing matter of the U.S. debt approaching $21 trillion, which just happens to be an almost identical amount unaccounted for, not properly accounted for in the Department of Defense and Housing and Urban Development. Some glaring bookkeeping issues there that need to be addressed. And a dollar amount equivalent to the U.S. national debt, I think that needs to be looked at very carefully, don't you? All these issues. And here we are, just a few days before Christmas, not too long before the first of the year, less than 3 weeks. It'll be the 1st of January, 2018. Living our lives with our careers, our families, our social obligations, and so forth, trying to get by. At the same time, many of us preparing for the consequences of what would happen if the debt explodes in our face. What would happen if North Korea sets off a couple of electromagnetic pulse devices over the United States from one or both of those satellites, according to the former director of the CIA, Mr. Woolsey, James Woolsey, who made a statement in September that both of those North Korean satellites on a polar orbit, they go over the continental United States every 12 hours, twice a day, that they both have nuclear devices on board. Why haven't they taken those things out? Good question. I know we have the capability to take out any satellite we choose to. Why hasn't that happened? Great question, isn't it? It would be an act of war, obviously, but I think it's something that needs to be strongly considered and possibly take place. So here we are, listening to the radio on Thursday morning, the 14th day of December, getting our day going. It's early in most parts of the country. It's still on the West Coast, still only 7 a.m., East Coast, mid-morning. So what should people do? Good question. Well, I believe people need to consider lifestyle changes, even relocating. Long-term life in big cities is not tenable, in my opinion. Living in a location less than 800 feet above sea level is untenable, in my opinion. Long-term, the best choice, based on everything I know, is to become part of a hobby farm. What does that look like? Well, here's what it looks like. First of all, it'll be 800 feet above sea level or more. It'll be 100 miles or more from a major population center. When I say major, a city of 500,000 or larger. 100 miles or more from that major city. It'll be a place where the produce grown, which would be fruits, vegetables, eggs, chickens, beef, milk, whatever it might be, is primarily meant for consumption on the premises. Obviously, if there's extra produce to be sold, it should be sold at the local farmer's market or however it's sold. But the primary use is for the consumption on the premises by the people that live there and work there. If you're a city dweller and you don't have those skills, it may sound daunting, and it is daunting. The whole concept of leaving a major metropolitan area, getting established on a hobby farm, is daunting. Of course it is. It doesn't mean it can't be done. It means you're going to have to make sacrifices. Now, I recommend publicly the Arkansas-Missouri Ozarks as a safe haven, which the Arkansas-Missouri Ozarks is designated a safe haven by the U.S. Navy going back to at least 1979. I've traced back the first briefing to 1979 in New Orleans. One of my listeners, we call him Phil from Montana, he was there. Phil from Montana was there setting up the lights, the sound system, the tables, the chairs for that first briefing on a Saturday morning in New Orleans in 1979. He saw the Navy map, the real Navy map, the one that's on my website, by the way. A free download would be my article, No Need for Panic. That map's on there. It's also on my DVD, Global Warming, What the Government Isn't Telling You. He saw the map on the wall, but since he was not allowed in the briefing, he didn't know until 2009. He didn't know what that map meant. In 2009, 30 years later, he bought a copy of my DVD, Global Warming, What the Government's Telling You. He watched it. He gives me a phone call. He says, John, I've seen that map before. I said, really? He says, yeah, really. Then he told me the story I just mentioned to you about setting up that briefing room. That was for flag rank officers, by the way. There was a 6-year gap before they started briefing, and it was the Submarine Corps primarily, before they started briefing the enlisted men and the lower ranking officers. 6 years. And I've debriefed quite a few of these submarine veterans, and none of them were briefed before 1985. And of course, it's mostly the Submarine Corps. Now, there's some I've debriefed some Surface Navy veterans who are aware of this. They weren't briefed necessarily formally, but people talk in the Navy. They know each other, and they talk to each other, and they somehow, some way found out. One man I debriefed, and he actually ended up being one of the men who helped recreate the Navy map. It was three guys. One former Navy SEAL, this gentleman who did a 3 or 2 duty with the Submarine Corps. He's from another service, and a naval officer who was a submarine officer. So in these briefings, they were told, gentlemen, during your lifetimes, not your children's, not your grandchildren's, during your lifetimes, these oceans are going to come out of their basins, flooding all coastal areas worldwide. And when it comes time to retire, you just might want to retire to the Arkansas, Missouri Ozarks as a safe haven. Now, I did 2 nationwide speaking tours with the Prophecy Club. One had to do with terrorism, the other had to do with this matter of violent climate change. Neighbor at Wormwood. They're all related, by the way. And so the Prophecy Club had me all over the country, from the East Coast to the West Coast, and down south. And I was also in Detroit. It was a hotel meeting room, a standing room only, 3-hour presentation with 2 10-minute breaks. During the first break, the gentleman walks up, shakes my hand, and introduces himself. He says, John, I'm in the insurance industry. We've wondered for years, why is there such a cluster of retired Navy people in the zip codes of the Arkansas, Missouri Ozarks? He says, now we know. Now we know. The Navy veteran, the officer from the Submarine Corps, Steve Canfield was his name. He's deceased now, so I can mention his name. He was one of my pistol students. That's where I met most of these veterans, by the way. These Navy submarine veterans was in my pistol classes, teaching people to get their concealed carry permit. So typically on a lunch break, I would ask, we would talk, have a general conversation. I would ask if there was any veterans, and I found out Steve was a Navy submarine officer. I immediately made an appointment to meet him for lunch at the country club the following week. And he helped make the second revisions on that map, the real Navy map. Now, it's been 6 or 7 years ago that somebody took Gordon Michael Scallion, he's a fairly well-known psychic, Gordon Michael Scallion's map, and published it on the internet calling it the Navy map. It's not. Now, the Navy veterans told me that Scallion's map is fairly accurate from Mississippi East, and not even close in the Mississippi West. So just keep that in mind if you run across something called the Navy map on the internet. It's not, unless it's my map. And if I'm giving credit for it, it's my map. The big question people have is, John, when's it going to happen? The only people asking that question are the ones who are not living a daily life of preparedness. That's the ones who are interested in that answer and having a date for the following reason. They want to continue their current lifestyle, which is not a daily lifestyle of preparedness. They want to continue that until some date in the future when they think, oh, I need to stop what I'm doing and start living a life of preparedness. That's why they're searching for a date. Now, there could be exceptions to what I just said, but that applies to most people most of the time. John, when's it going to happen? How about 3 p.m. tomorrow? My response has been, it's at my website, Field Training Exercise, USS Liberty, December 31st, 2018. And I list 5 different scenarios. Violent climate change is one of them. Violent climate change, violent earth changes is one of them. You pick your own scenario. There's 5 listed there. I like sometimes it's kind of interesting and sometimes kind of fun to run people out of excuses. And that's partly why I did that, was to run people out of excuses. You want a date? I'll give you a date. December 31st, 2018. Almost exactly a year away. And when you click on there, I'll click on it right now, we list 5 different scenarios. Economic collapse, number 1, leading to civil disorder. Number 2, World War III. The third one, rapid onset of violent earth changes. Number 4, widespread terrorist attacks. And last but not least, natural or man-made EMP. There you go. You got a date. Now it's time to start getting ready, isn't it? You can do a lot in a year, even on a limited budget. There's a lot you can do. If you're focused, if you're diligent, if you work at it, there's a lot you can do in a year. This year will quickly slip away. It seems like I was wrapping up 2016 just yesterday, and here we are wrapping up 2017 right now. It'll be 2018 in 2 weeks. How about that? And 2018 will go by really fast, just like all these years do. Of course it will. Do not anguish. First of all, get your spiritual house in order. It's the single most important thing you can do. Seriously, it is. Then comes skills. Whether you have a group of 6 people or 600, there's 2 skills that will be in biggest demand and short supply. Here they are. Emergency medical treatment skills and ham radio skills. So focus on those 2 skill sets first, and let the others come after that. You're going to need a team. Your team is probably going to be people you're related to by blood or marriage, maybe close friends. Regardless, you need a team of men and women that will work together to achieve a common goal. Now, if you think mom and dad and maybe a couple of teenage boys can set up a safe haven and that's all you need, well, you're sadly mistaken. For the following reason. There's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week that somebody's going to have to be awake. I believe it's 168 hours, if I'm not mistaken. 4 people aren't going to stay awake all night and have somebody stay awake all night, every night, indefinitely. It's not going to happen. Something's going to suffer. You get a dozen men and women, you can split up that overnight shift among enough people that it won't be too burdensome. It's a serious matter to consider. Very serious. And of course, last but not least in this area of advice, you need a safe haven. Some people will decide to shelter in place. Long term, that is untenable in an urban, suburban area. Water gets to be an issue really quick. 2 gallons per person per day is bare bones minimum, absolutely bare bones minimum. So how much water can you store in an urban, suburban area? It's going to be limited. You might have a few hundred gallons. I kept typically about not quite 200 gallons on hand when I was living in an urban area, suburb of St. Louis. Enough to get me by for probably, maybe 2 months or so. That would be pushing the limit there. Really pushing the limit. So being out of an urban suburban area where you have a source of water that you own and you control would be the ideal thing. These water treatment systems are dependent on electricity to make them function. Once they're gone, they're gone. So you need a safe haven. Here's our break. We may have a special guest for a few minutes. We may not. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 14th day of December. Quickly wrapping up the year, aren't we? We got open lines. Take your questions, calls, and comments at 800-313-9443. Half a century ago this month, sounds like a long time, don't it? I was working in military intelligence, assigned to psychological warfare in the Republic of Vietnam. I had been there since the first week of September, 1967. Within the first 2 to 3 weeks I was there, I learned about the soon-to-happen massive enemy offensive during the Chinese New Year holiday called Tet, T-E-T, Tet. As we worked through the fall, and I was working in intelligence, and I attended a classified briefing Monday through Friday. I was picking up classified documents from the CIA, from RAND Corporation, military intelligence, and so forth, Army Security Agency. And I started telling my buddies in my outfit in psychological warfare that this offensive was going to come, and they should be stocking up on ammunition and food. I didn't think about stocking up on water. It turned out not to be an issue. Not many did. Of course, getting access to ammunition, we were considered rear echelon, was not easy. There was one time I was out at the Air Force Base and missed my ride. It was we were working too late, actually. After dark, we couldn't travel the 10 or 12 miles back to our home base. It was just too dangerous to be at call in the night. So myself and the other 2 men that worked out there at the air base for my unit, we We're going to spend the night. We had no choice. And we found out there was an alert for an attack that night. And I became the spokesman for our little group of 3 guys. I went to the officer in charge of security for the air base, a young Air Force major. Actually, well, at the time he looked like a pretty mature man. He was probably in his mid-40s or so. And we volunteered our services in exchange for all the ammunition we could carry home with us the following morning. Now, I should have drove a harder bargain. In hindsight, of course, I was only 20 years old. I should have made the bargain include hand grenades and smoke grenades and flares, but I didn't. At the time, I was focused on ammunition. So we had a good meal, and we reported for duty about 7 p.m., and we were put on the part of the perimeter of the Air Force Base where they thought the ground attack would come from. Our bunker consisted of 3 metal crates that bombs were shipped in. The bombs were removed, and they were filled up with sand. It wasn't much of a shelter, quite frankly. But we had plenty of ammunition. The officer came through. He gave us plenty of ammunition. He also gave us hand grenades and smoke grenades and flares. So we were pretty well set up, and we had our canteens full of water. And the attack came about 2 a.m. The rockets and mortars coming in over our heads and landing in the middle of the air base. As it turned out, there was no ground attack, which we were all grateful for, of course. And once the sun came up, we returned to the security office, and we turned in the hand grenades and the smoke grenades and flares, and we kept the ammunition and went to breakfast at the air base, had a great breakfast, and went back to work after being up all night, exchanging stories and talking about our girlfriends and our lives back home and what we were hoping our life would be once we got out of the war. And, of course, the Tet Offensive did come. The Tet Offensive did come at the end of January 1968. And it was horrendous. We lost a lot of good men. Hundreds of Americans died during that offensive. Most of them unnecessarily because the Army had not prepared to deal with this offensive like they should have. In fact, there was one of the major networks did a special on that. And General Westmoreland threatened a lawsuit. And the special was done quite a few years later. It was the 1980s. And there was a conflict in the intelligence community between the CIA and Westmoreland's Army intelligence. I had access to both, and I believed what the CIA was saying because I had access to information that confirmed what the CIA was saying, that there was going to be a major offensive at the end of January 1968. I was ready. I'd stocked up plenty of ammunition. I kept that fruitcake that one of my relatives sent me, a number of other treats I kept stored up in my little foot locker, so I had extra food stored up, plenty of ammunition, and I was good to go. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our Energy Cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the Energy Cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri, We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 14th day of December. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. People new to my website are amazed at how much is there. There's a lot there. There's an awful lot there. And under free downloads, there's a bunch. Under, let's see, learning and research links, there's a lot there. A survival and alternative medicine library, 10 books you should read. Yeah, there's a lot. So don't get in a hurry. Just go through there a little at a time and incrementally gain access to the things that are at my website. And of course, the videos are fun, and well, not necessarily all fun, but they will inform you and educate you, possibly entertain you. The Real Housewives of ISIS, I think you'll find that to be pretty entertaining. I was hoping it would become a miniseries, but it was just a one-time deal that BBC did. And I'm kind of surprised that BBC even did this, but they did. I think they were the producers. And, of course, energy cleaners. We talked for 24 minutes last hour about the energy cleaner. This is my home business. My friend Tom Berryhill manufactures the energy cleaner. I buy the mattress pads and reconfigure them so they're compatible to go with the energy cleaner. I just took delivery yesterday of 27 mattress pads. They're all stacked up here in my living room, ready for delivery. I'll be getting together with Tom Berryhill either today or tomorrow and getting a fresh supply of energy cleaners. So if you have arthritis pain or joint pain or back pain, you will probably get relief from an energy cleaner. Most likely you will. Not getting a great night's sleep, it will most likely help you there as well. Check out the energy cleaner at my website at thelibertyman.com, where you can place your order using PayPal, the most secure way to make any payment online, MasterCard, Visa, or you can send me a check. My address is right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. I have a toll-free order line 24 hours a day, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. The Chinese New Year celebration of Tet in the Far East is roughly the equivalent of New Year's, Christmas, and 4th of July all wrapped into one. It is a massive, fun holiday. We had a very low level of activity during the Vietnam War, the months leading up to the Tet Offensive. Very low activity. In fact, the curfew had been pushed back, I think, till maybe 10 p.m. or midnight for the Tet Offensive. It might have been pushed back to midnight. And it was the first night of the Tet holiday, Chinese New Year. People were celebrating. They were exchanging gifts, going out to eat. The GIs participated also to a large extent. And I recall going to bed that night and waking up about 2 a.m. to what many of us thought initially were more fireworks being discharged, but it was gunfire, machine guns, rifles, and of course the rockets and mortars started coming in shortly after that, and the game was on all over the country. They focused on the cities. The Tet Offensive was focused on the cities. I was in the capital city of the Mekong Delta, 4th Corps, called Can-Tho. That's C-A-N-T-H-O. At the time, it was a city of about 1 million people. I believe it's more than twice that size now. Can-Tho University was there. 4th Corps headquarters for the U.S. Army was there. We had an Army airfield right outside the city, Can-Tho Army Airfield. and then the air base about another 10 miles out, Ben Tui Air Force Base. The Navy had a facility on the Bassac River there, a very impressive facility with 20-foot fences and towers with heavy machine guns on them, and so forth. A lot of military activity. I was with psychological warfare there. They called PSYOPs, psychological operations, as an intelligence analyst. So the battle began. It went on for basically a month. And it was the most intense combat of my time being there. I flew 57 combat missions, many of those aircraft being hit by enemy gunfire. But that month of the Tet Offensive was intense combat. And the first few days, it wasn't really clear what direction it was going to go. It wasn't really clear that the U.S. military was going to prevail. That first morning, we had Radio Vietnam on, and we heard that the U.S. Embassy compound had been invaded by the Viet Cong. So I'm laying there on my belly, on the floor of our building, listening to this, and we're 90 miles from Saigon, which may as well have been 1,000 miles in terms of being able to get there. And I'm thinking to myself, if the most secure place in Vietnam is being invaded by the Viet Cong, the U.S. Embassy in Saigon, what chance do I have down here? We've got some sandbags, some chicken wire between us and the Viet Cong. That was it. The chicken wire was so that when the B-40, the rocket-propelled grenades were shot, the theory was they would hit the chicken wire and explode before they got to the building. I don't know if that was never tested where I was, but we were hoping that would be true. And of course, ammunition was not just the only issue. We didn't have enough ammo for our men. We also didn't have enough food. We had enough sea rations to feed every man one meal if they split one meal between them, took half a meal. That's all the food we had. Not very confidence building, to say the least. I believe it was, I'm looking back now half a century. It was either, we may not have got out that first day, it was just too darn dangerous. It may have been the second day that we ran an armed convoy to where we get some food. And the people were cheering. It reminded me of the liberation of Paris, where the Parisians were cheering the GIs as they rolled through Paris in 1945. Or was that 1944? Whenever it was. I guess it might have been still 1944 when they rolled through Paris. Regardless, it's the only time the Vietnamese ever cheered us and waved at us and smiled as they did. They were really, really glad to see Americans rolling by their homes and their businesses. Rifles sticking out the sides of the deuce and a half. That's when I came to understand the principle of denial, the human nature of denial. So here we are. We're in a combat zone. We're in a war. Most of these guys were doing their jobs. We had artists, photographers, illustrators, pressmen running the 5-color offset presses, mechanics keeping the vehicles running, administrative people doing the administrative things. And here's myself, John Moore, and maybe 3 other guys working in intelligence. Everything I saw, everything I read, everything I heard was classified. Everything. I went to the classified briefing every morning, and then I briefed my commander. So John Moore's telling his buddies, hey, there's going to be this attack on us at the end of January during the Chinese New Year celebration. But you need to be stocking up on food. You need to be stocking up on ammunition because they're going to hit us, and they're going to hit us hard. Now, a few paid heed, most did not. A few paid heed, but most did not. Most just did their job and lived their life doing what they did without attempting to stock up on food, without attempting to stock up on ammunition, despite being told by a man who was their friend, their co-worker, member of their outfit, who had access to the real deal, the real intelligence, despite their man in their outfit, John Moore, telling them that they needed to be doing this. That's denial. Now here I am half a century later telling all of you the same thing. You need to stock up on food, stock up on ammunition, stock up on water. Some will pay heed, most will not. That's my reality. I learned a long time ago not to get an emotional attachment to the outcome of warning people, such as warning my brother and my brother-in-law. The article at my website, No Need for Panic, was originally a private communication meant for only two men, my kid brother and my brother-in-law. Knowing two things. First of all, it was the right thing to do. Second of all, they probably wouldn't do anything about it, which is proven to be true. I knew it would, and it has been proven to be true. I'm okay with it. I respect their right to not pay heed. I regret it, but I don't, get unduly upset about what I knew would happen. Same thing with talking to all of you out there. I know some of you will prepare, and some won't. I also know the consequences of not preparing. War for John Moore is not 90 minutes or 2 hours in an air-conditioned room with a bag of popcorn. That's what war is for most Americans most of the time. It's not for John Moore. A film cannot communicate the smell of death. War cannot communicate the intensity that you experience in combat, going for days with no sleep whatsoever. Watching the anguish of a mother who's lost a child. Seeing the consequences of intentional violent death up close and personal. Smelling a body that's been laying in the tropical sun for days. That's my reality. That's why I do what I do. Because I know that these things could come to our shores. And there are entities, powerful entities such as George Soros, who would love to see the United States of America come to a violent end. That's their goal. My goal is to help do whatever I can to make sure that doesn't happen. And if it does come about, to save as many lives as I can. That's what we're doing here, is saving lives. One person at a time. There's a scene in the film, The Day After Tomorrow, where the Scottish scientist is on the telephone. It's the last telephone call to the American scientist. The Scottish scientist tells the American scientist, quote unquote, save the ones that you can, if I can paraphrase what he said. Save the ones that you can. That's what I'm doing here at Republic Broadcasting. Hopefully, saving a few here and there. The remnant, as it's sometimes called in Christian theology, the remnant. We're not going to save everybody. That's not going to happen. We save the ones that we can. And you save the ones that you can. I get these calls all the time. John, how can I wake up my spouse? How can I wake up my siblings? Well, you give it a shot, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. We got a caller and holder. We got Rick in Missouri. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, John. I'm sorry to usurp so much of your show this week, but I actually was watching a psychologist on this subject, and I thought it was very interesting what he had to say. The guy was, I think, German. I knew his name, but forgot it now. Heavy accent. But what he said about the decision-making process or people's opinions and possibly why you can't, why it's almost impossible to change anyone's mind is that people don't come to a decision the way you think they might or maybe even the way you might. They find somebody they trust. That person gives them their opinion, that person adopts the opinion then because they trust that person or like or love that person. Then they make up all the stories that they need to in between where they were and where that person is, and they basically invent the scenario that makes that all possible. Kind of like a inconvenient truth type thing. And that's how people, that's why, I don't know who you'd have to be in order to change somebody's mind who's in that condition. It's just, I've been up against that wall, and it is a wall.
It is a wall. It is a wall. It's a difficult, I've been down this road many times. My DVD, Global Warming, What the Government's Telling You, has convinced many people of the reality.
Right.
When it first came out, there was an attorney in California. He was able to convince his wife of this reality, and he went ahead and bought 5 more copies to help convince other people. But it's not a silver bullet, Rick. It helps a lot of people, but not everybody.
No, and I'm not going to suck up here, but I do want to say I do like to pull that DVD out and watch it. It is a great DVD, and there's a lot more in there besides global warming. In fact, that maybe is just one subject in there. There's a lot of great stuff in that DVD. Everybody should have a copy of that. I did have one more thing to say, and this actually is kind of off the subject. Bitcoin. It appears that somebody, if I understand this correctly, they have invented a it's a derivative. They've invented a derivative the way they've invented derivatives for gold and silver, and now with that, the bankers and the Federal Reserve should be able to slam Bitcoin around now. That'll give them a handle and a rope to deal with that. So if you've got any kind of cryptocurrencies, you might want to be very, very careful here at this point. They'll let it run for a while, but I think when they get in the mood, they'll start banging that around the way they do everything else. There is one more thing. I got to set the record straight about something I said yesterday about asking for help and saying thanks if you get it. Something occurred to me later, and I probably sent 2 or 3 right Christians right over the edge. If you're praying for something and you don't get help, there's a possibility you're asking for something that isn't good for you, and if you don't get it, you should probably still say thanks. I think Garth Brooks has a song out called God's Greatest Gifts Are Unanswered Prayers. So, I needed to correct that record before everybody got the impression that I was a lunatic. All right. Yeah.
Thank you, Rick. We appreciate it.
Thank you, bye.
Okay. Here's our last break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, we are back with the gentleman, Pat Jeremy, on Thursday, the 14th of December. That last spot got cut off, and I want to encourage you to please consider donating to Republic Broadcasting. It'll help keep us on the air and getting the word out there as long as we can be doing so. Preparedness has become pretty mainstream with TV shows featuring that. They're pretty silly. I don't watch them. But it's become pretty mainstream. Back when I got started, the summer of 1977, I did my first paid consultation on preparedness. A couple flew their private plane from Las Vegas to Missouri to have the consultation with me. So I've been at this a long time, 40 years, this past summer. And I do professional consultations. I'll be doing another speaking engagement in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, probably in January or February. Once we get a date and a venue, I'll be publishing that. If you want me to come to your community, the details of bringing me to your community are at my website at thelibertyman.com. And same thing with private consultations. Right there on the right side of my homepage, we've got professional consultations and keynote presentations. It looks like we need to update just below there. It says Seminars 2016 updates. It's obviously behind the times. It's hard to keep track of all this stuff, but we need to get some updates there. It's a lot of fun. I like getting out to the expos and getting to the speaking engagements. People always ask me, John, when are you going to come to my part of the country? Well, let's set it up. Let's set it up, and I'll do that. I make road trips. I don't fly unless there's no alternative. When I went to Prague, Czech Republic last July, obviously I had to fly. I wasn't going to take no boat and spend a couple of weeks on the water. But yes, I make road trips, and it's a lot of fun getting out there and meeting people and talking to them and seeing what their concerns are and helping them reach their goals. So you can get those details at my website under professional consultations and keynote presentations. Almost out of time here. Tomorrow morning, we'll have Tom Berryhill talking about emergency communications. There'll be some interesting updates there. The first hour, second hour, we'll have Dr. Phil Myers with his health tip of the week. That's our new feature we have on Fridays, our health tip of the week. And it'll be a fun show, wrapping up our week, as always. Next week, we may have one new guest talking about the ThermTac suits. These are custom-made suits that keep you from being observable with thermal imaging devices. That's really important to have that kind of protection. And I hope to have Brandon on one day next week and be able to talk about that. Of course, Monday we'll have Jimmy Gensling. We'll have Firearms Monday. It's become one of my favorite shows to get caught up with Jimmy. All the things to do with rifles, shotguns, pistols, optics, reloading, the gun culture, firearms laws, and so forth. Always a lot of fun. And, of course, Professor McCanning on Wednesdays. Jim goes in a lot of different directions with our discussions, as always. And that's it for the day. Get your medical supplies, your energy cleaner, your essential oils now while you can. Your firearms, your ammunition. Never ever give up your guns. Have a fun, safe, productive day. And God bless America.